What happens when silence transforms into dominance almost overnight? No games for 8 months, no rhythm, no warning, and then 19 minutes that sent shockwaves through international basketball. On an intense night in Puerto Rico, Caitlin Clark did not simply make her debut for the United States women's national basketball team, she changed the entire storyline. 17 points, 12 assists, 0 turnovers, complete control, exceptional precision, and history unfolding in real time. But while one player was quietly building history on the court, another was drawing headlines through controversy, because what Angel Reese said that same week took many people by surprise. To understand why those 19 minutes carried so much weight, you have to return to the start of the tournament. This was the FIBA World Cup qualifying event, a demanding stretch of 5 games in 7 days, and Team USA was widely expected to dominate. The real uncertainty was never about whether they would win, but about who would take command of the team. Head coach Kara Lawson opened the tournament by starting Chelsea Gray at point guard against Senegal. Gray is a highly respected veteran, so the choice was understandable on the surface, but it became obvious very quickly that the setup was not working. Senegal came out with aggressive full-court pressure, attacking the ball handler, taking away passing lanes, and disrupting the offense before it could establish any rhythm. Gray struggled, the passing looked disjointed, the spacing was poor, and the overall energy felt flat. Then Clark entered the game from the bench. Think about how difficult that moment should have been. She had not played a real game in more than 8 months. This was her first appearance with the senior national team. The atmosphere was loud, the stakes were high, and the same defensive pressure that had just unsettled a veteran point guard immediately came after her. She did not panic. She did not hesitate. She processed the pressure as if she had seen it countless times, accelerated the pace before the defense could reset, and fired passes to teammates before their movements were even fully complete. It was poised, exact, and destructive. She finished with 17 points, 12 assists, and 0 turnovers in just 19 minutes as Team USA cruised to a 110-46 victory. After the game, she did not focus on nerves, rust, or the challenge of returning. She simply said she was excited to be there and excited to play basketball again. After 8 months away, she stepped into international competition and looked like someone who had never been gone, like someone who had only been waiting for the game to return to her. Those 12 assists were not merely impressive, they were historic. That single game total became the highest assist mark ever recorded in a senior national team debut, not only for Team USA, but for any player from any country in recorded international basketball history. She also produced the fastest double-double in Team USA debut history and became the first player, male or female, from any nation to post a double-double in a first senior national team appearance. Every part of that is remarkable. Came off the bench. It happened in only 19 minutes. And it came after 239 days without a game. Yet even that was only the beginning. Once the opening game ended, there was no way to put the story back in the bottle. Clark had already shown what she could do in limited time. And over the full tournament, the numbers made it undeniable that she was operating on a level no one else could match. Across all 5 games, she totaled 32 assists and led Team USA in assists in every single game she played. She averaged 11.6 points and 6.4 assists per game, and she did that while playing roughly 19 minutes a night rather than the long, heavy minutes typically given to featured stars in international tournaments. The number that captures her impact most clearly, however, is +109. Her plus-minus for the event was not only the best mark on Team USA, it was the best recorded by any player from any country in the entire tournament. Every roster, every team, every player. In an event full of elite talent, Clark was the most impactful person on any court in Puerto Rico that week, and she was doing it while playing reduced minutes and battling the flu for part of the tournament. After the opener, Phoenix Mercury head coach Nate Tibbetts took over and made the adjustment that changed the flow of everything. He inserted Clark into the starting lineup and reshaped the offense around a guard-heavy pace and space structure. Exactly the kind of system that maximizes her strengths by allowing her to push tempo, spot cutters early, and create clean looks before defenses can rotate. The results showed up immediately. In Team USA's next game against New Zealand, they won 101-46, a 55-point blowout. Clark played 23 minutes, the most on the team, and posted an efficiency rating of 18, the highest on the roster. Afterward, Tibbetts admitted something coaches rarely say in public. Not starting Clark earlier had been a mistake. It is extremely uncommon in professional sports for a coach to openly acknowledge that the original plan was wrong, and that the obvious answer should have been seen sooner. Coaches usually protect their decisions, soften the message, or avoid direct admission. Tibbetts did not. He said it clearly. She should have been starting from the very beginning. By the end of the week, the outcome was overwhelming. Clark broke 14 world records, won tournament MVP, became the youngest MVP in the history of the qualifying event, and became the first player ever to win that award after spending most of the tournament coming off the bench. That final part deserves emphasis. She was the most valuable player in the entire tournament even though she did not start most of the games. Her dominance in limited minutes was so great that no full-time starter anywhere in the field could match her impact. And once she won the award, she did what she had done the whole time, she just kept playing. No dramatic celebration, no public performance, no victory tour, just more basketball. That is one of the qualities that separates Clark from almost everyone else in this discussion. The work does not slow down when recognition arrives. The recognition comes because the work never slowed down in the first place. And what makes the story even larger is that her impact does not stop once she leaves the court. What Clark is building away from basketball may be just as extraordinary as what she is doing on it. At only 24 years old, her commercial portfolio already looks like something associated with an athlete in the late stages of a Hall of Fame career, rather than someone entering a second full WNBA season. Start with Nike. Clark reportedly has the largest Nike endorsement deal ever given to a WNBA player, not merely the biggest rookie arrangement but the biggest deal overall. And it is not structured like a normal sponsorship where an athlete wears branded gear and films a few ads. Her deal includes a signature shoe line and revenue sharing, the type of arrangement Nike typically reserves for athletes in the LeBron James or Michael Jordan tier. That is the commercial level she has already reached at age 24. Then there is Wilson Sporting Goods, where Clark received her own signature product line, making her the first athlete since Michael Jordan to receive that kind of treatment from the company. That point matters. The last person Wilson built that sort of signature platform around was Michael Jordan, and the next person they chose was Caitlin Clark. State Farm then signed her as the first female athlete ever to serve as a primary face of the brand, not a secondary figure in another athlete's commercial, but the central figure of the campaign. State Farm has historically directed its largest marketing resources toward NFL quarterbacks and NBA superstars, and it chose Clark as a leading face. Gatorade followed with a deal described as record-breaking for a female athlete. So now the portfolio includes Nike, Wilson, State Farm, and Gatorade. That does not look like a standard basketball endorsement list. It looks more like a Fortune 500 brand strategy. Then there is Prada. Clark stepped into luxury fashion at 24 by partnering with one of the most iconic brands in the world. Very few athletes of either gender enter that space so early, and the ones who do usually stay there for years. The actual earnings make the picture even more striking. During her rookie season alone, Clark reportedly made an estimated $8.1 million in endorsements while earning a base WNBA salary of roughly $70,000. Her off-court earnings were more than 100 times her on-court salary. Most veteran WNBA players do not make in an entire career what she earned from endorsements in her first year. Forbes ranked her among the most powerful women in sports, not just within women's basketball or the WNBA, but in sports overall. And when Sportico assessed the most influential female athletes, they were not merely counting social media followers or search popularity. They were measuring cultural influence, commercial pull, and the ability to move markets. Clark checked every category. Her rookie season helped drive record attendance, record television ratings, and greater media investment in women's basketball. Networks that had not meaningfully committed to the WNBA before suddenly had a financial reason to pay attention because her presence changed the economics. She did not simply arrive in the league, she changed the way the league functions. Sponsors came in, broadcast deals became more valuable, and arenas that had never sold out women's basketball games were suddenly full. And all of that happened in year one, before she had even finished a full second season. Basketball and business are not separate stories in her case. They are one story, feeding each other and accelerating together. She dominates on the court, the commercial value rises, and the commercial value rises because she keeps dominating. Heading into the 2026 season with the Indiana Fever, both sides of that equation continue moving upward with no clear ceiling. Still, there is another side to the story, and you cannot understand the full contrast without it. While Clark was piling up 62 records in her rookie WNBA season and redefining expectations for a first-year player, Angel Reese was attracting a different kind of attention. On the surface, Reese had a solid rookie season. She led the league in rebounds, and that initially sounds impressive. But analysts spent the season documenting that a notable share of those rebounds came from her own missed shots on offense. She would miss near the basket, gather the rebound herself, and receive the same statistical credit she would have received for a true contested rebound or a clean defensive board. In effect, she was getting rebound credit for cleaning up her own mistakes. Multiple outlets pointed this out throughout the season, and the numbers supported the criticism. So when the two rookie years are placed next to each other, the gap is difficult to ignore. On one side, Clark broke 62 records, reshaped Indiana's offense, and drove the biggest attendance and ratings surges the WNBA had seen in years. On the other side, Reese was being praised for production that critics argued was partially inflated by her own missed shots. That is not a comparison many people around Reese want to examine too closely. And the distance between them did not shrink in year two. Clark kept expanding her resume with more assists, more efficient scoring, and more proof that she was operating at a level the league had not seen from a guard in a very long time. And the roster around her is far from weak. Aaliyah Boston is one of the top interior players in the league. Kelsey Mitchell is an elite scorer. Lexi Hull handles the hustle plays, the difficult defensive assignments, and the overlooked dirty work. Sophie Cunningham adds toughness and outside shooting. Put Clark's playmaking in the middle of that group, and Indiana's 2026 outlook becomes dangerous very quickly. And that is exactly what the FIBA tournament demonstrated on the international stage. Clark stepped into a completely new setting with teammates she had barely practiced with. In a system that was not originally built around her strengths, and within days she was breaking records again, 14 of them. That is not luck. That is not just a hot week. It is the same pattern she established in year one of the WNBA, only compressed into a much shorter time frame. New environment, new teammates, same result. The 62 rookie year records were not hype, and the gap between Clark's career path and Reese's kept widening, not only on the court, but in a much more public and much more expensive way. That leads directly to the commercial gap between the two, which has now become impossible to miss. The reason is simple. Nike is actively building a major marketing campaign around Clark's signature shoe line, and the launch is expected to be enormous. Industry analysts believe the shoe will sell out in minutes, not in days or even hours. And that expectation is not based on guesswork. Her Kobe Player Edition sneakers already resold for double the retail price almost immediately after launch. The demand is real, it is measurable, and it is already visible in resale markets before her signature line has fully arrived. At the same time, one of Angel Reese's Reebok shoes has reportedly been sitting on clearance racks at discounted prices. Her signature shoe launched with heavy promotion and was presented as a major partnership for a rising WNBA star, but the expected momentum never appeared. The shoes did not sell out. They did not build sustained buzz. Instead, they ended up discounted and sitting on shelves. For a signature shoe, that is one of the worst possible outcomes. Reports also indicate that Reebok has reduced or pulled back its marketing support for Reese's line. When a company goes quiet on a signature athlete this early, it usually signals that the return is not matching the investment. The brand is not seeing the numbers it expected, and it is not interested in continuing to spend heavily in hope that the results suddenly change. Why does that happen? Because major sponsors do not just examine follower counts or highlight clips. They employ teams to monitor public sentiment, controversy, behavior, and any risk that could reflect badly on the brand. And Reese's public pattern is exactly the kind of thing those teams notice. The perceived shade toward Clark, the jealousy posts, the public complaints about recognition and spotlight. Every time Clark reaches a new level, Reese seems to find a way to redirect part of the conversation toward herself. Not to congratulate, not to celebrate, but to compete for the narrative. It happened in college. It continued in the WNBA. And when Forbes ranked Clark fourth among the most powerful women in sports, making her the highest-ranked active athlete on the list. Reese reportedly responded with vague posts, implying that others deserved more recognition. It was not attention on her own development, not focus on improving her game, but more noise about fairness and credit directed at a player outperforming her in virtually every measurable category. Every time that happens, somewhere in a corporate office, another brand team adds another note to a risk assessment file. That is how sponsorship works. Companies are not merely buying talent, they are buying association. They want their brand next to someone who makes people feel positive, someone who represents excellence, poise, and composure and success. A repeated pattern of visible pettiness is a direct warning sign, and it affects how much money brands are willing to invest. That brings everything back to the moment that ignited the internet that week. During the exact same period when Clark was breaking 14 world records at FIBA, winning tournament MVP, and cementing herself as the most dominant player in the field, Reese reportedly made public comments suggesting that she deserved an award too. Not tied to one standout performance, not anchored to one overwhelming statistical case, but simply the idea that she should also be receiving recognition while her shoes were on clearance racks, while Reebok had gone quiet, and while Nike was building a global campaign around the player she seemingly could not stop comparing herself to. While Clark's Kobe editions were reselling for double retail and Reese's signature line was being marked down just to move product, that was the moment she chose to argue for an award. Eventually, the pattern becomes too clear to deny. Awards follow performance. Endorsements follow value. Recognition follows results. That has always been true in sports, and it remains true now. At this point, by almost every visible measure, the gap between these two players is large and still widening. So look at the full picture one last time. On one side is Caitlin Clark, not merely as a player, but as a force moving through the game with precision, with records falling almost faster than they can be counted, stepping onto a global stage with no adjustment period and instantly taking control. Systems, teammates, pressure, none of it changed the outcome. On the other side is Angel Reese, a very different kind of presence, loud, visible, reactive, and constantly at the center of conversation whether the production truly justifies it or not. And that contrast is where this story really lives. Because this was never just about one tournament, one stat line, or 1 week in Puerto Rico. It is about something much larger. Who gets validated by performance, and who keeps fighting to be recognized without it? Who controls the narrative, and who ends up being controlled by it? Now the story shifts back to the WNBA, back to full arenas, and back to a season that has not even started yet but already feels as if the outcome is moving in one direction. The Indiana Fever are not simply bringing back a roster, they are unleashing a system built around momentum, inevitability, and a player who has already shown that ceilings do not apply to her. They vanish. And if the last 2 years have proven anything, it is this. The gap between expectation and reality is where legacies are made. So as the lights come back on, the noise grows louder, and the pressure rises higher than ever. Ask yourself one question. When the story is finally written, will it be about genuine talent, or about who succeeded in convincing the world they had it?